that up real quick. Move it. Hey, you're PonyPunch. Thank you
Hi.
for being here. That's amazing. I'm a big fan.
Thank you for the invite.
Just to give you the rundown and anyone else who doesn't know what's occurring, for several years now and across multiple different servers, I've invited people to come and ask them questions about RP because it is very much a skill and it's sort of a hobby, a skill, an experience, a game. It's all sorts of things. So I asked them questions like, what is the nature of RP, and how do we get into it, and how can we be better RPers, to try and make selfishly myself a better RPer, but also to give other people ideas that they can do as well. And my friends and I talk about this sort of stuff behind the scenes, so why not talk in front of the scenes? So that's the point.
Smart.
Yeah, I think that you're a big resource for RP and improv and all of that stuff. So I went with the more technical questions for you because I think you stream your stories most of the time. People can go and watch those. So I'm going to draw on your RP knowledge. But first and foremost, how'd you get into RP and how'd you wind up where we are today?
Get into RP. I started eons ago. I'm trying to remember when it was. Swan would know. He's one of my first viewers ever. I think it was around 2000 something. I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. I was watching. I don't remember how I got into it, but I was on Twitch and I was watching a man named Blizz HD. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He doesn't stream anymore. He streamed with Mr. Moon. You probably heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
They used to do DayZ together, DSRP. So I would watch Bliss HD's videos where he had recorded, because he did YouTube videos. That's how he started. Yeah, I was watching his YouTube videos that were like 20, 30 minutes long. They were kind of like short movies. And then it looked so much fun. Then I started watching his stream. And then I applied for the server he played on. And then I started doing DayZ RP. A lot of my early days were just, before I started streaming, was just waiting for him to go live, seeing where he was on the server, and then accidentally ending up there. I was stream sniping a lot starting out. Because, like, it was me and, God, what was her name? There was me and another Swedish girl, and we would jump on together. And our goal was to not necessarily be on the stream, although that was probably part of it, right? To like be on the big stream. But the main part of it, Nipple Viking, that was her name. But the main part was to be to make a memorable scenario, like to make it fun, right?
Right.
Because some people stream snipe and they just stand there like, hi, do something funny. But we always had the goal to like have a story between ourselves and then present that story to him. And if he wanted to come join whatever we were doing, he was welcome to do so. But we never tried to like push it. And then after I did that for a bit, he learned to know my character. And then I started streaming, and then I did DayZ RP essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. And then do you want me to go all the way up till now?
It's up to you how much you want to offer. I think
I can I can do a short rundown of it.
Do it.
And then after DayZ, I done that for a while. I got pretty like not bored of it, but it's. Have you ever played DayZ?
Yeah. I don't like it.
Okay. I after a while it was just like, okay, I've kind of done this a bit. It is what it is. And then Ark had come out and was starting to get an RP scene. So then I moved over there with Awkward Kitty, you might know. And we did Bruce and Eloise was our kind of combo thing. And we did that several seasons on Twitch RP and on other servers. And then we did that for a bit and did some other servers and tried some or did other characters and tried different things. And then after that, People's Gaming is another individual. He had a server that was called Bastion. So he wanted to make, because I had only played on the official maps, and he had super ambitiously made his own map that was, it had like a big kingdom, and then, or like a capital with grand walls and like a district, like living district. And so it was like a fully fledged little city. And then he had a forest and a road along it. He had just made a lot of cool nooks and crannies on the map. And there was a Viking village, and had like established. He had made a map where you could, if you wanted to be a Viking, for example, you could just be out in the Viking village, and if you wanted to be in the town, you could be there. And he asked me if I wanted to, because then I had RP for a bit, so people know who I was, you know?
Of course.
So then they asked if I wanted to be a prince, I think it was, or a lord. It was a lord of the city. And then I had to come up with a character, and he had asked me like a month before, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be a lord, whatever. I'll think of something funny." And then it wasn't until the day before that I realized I haven't come up with a character yet. What do I do? Yeah, and it was a pretty big role, or like you had a lot of responsibility being there because you were like in charge of ruling some stuff. And then the day before, I just browsed the internet for inspiration, and I saw the clip from the Pink Panther. Have you seen that movie?
Oh yeah, the Pink Panther. Yeah. I thought you were referencing a person, but yeah, I've seen that.
No. Yeah, where where he's like, "I would like to buy a hamburger," and then I thought, like, I'll do a French character. And then that's how King Guillome came to be in a moment of panic before the server launched. And his voice was quite a bit different back then than it is now. But then, we did that, and then they did us Bastion Season 2, and I think that's when he was a king. They upgraded him to a king at that point. And then Darkside launched their Season 1. I think I joined 1 or 2. It was Kitty that tipped me off. She was like, "This guy named Venelis has a server, and they're doing RP." And that was also a custom map, I think. Did you play back then?
Not that far back.
Okay, yeah. I believe it was a custom map. So then they had like the barbarians, they had the Vikings, and then they had the kingdom. And Ven was charge of the barbarians. Fist was Jarl of the Vikings, and I was king of the more medieval knights. We were knights. And then they did that for a few seasons. And then I did some GTA. I've done a bunch, but then after a while, it landed on Atlas, and that's kind of where I've been hovering until now.
Yes.
Well, that was a long story. There you go.
Well, to fill in some gaps there, when you played, I think actually King Guillaume, I started watching you, and I had never RP'd before.
Was that in Atlas or Arc?
In Arc. So in Arc, the first iteration of the King, and I don't actually know if you were the King or not. I remember specifically a point at which you and the crew, like everyone, was on like a little tiny island in a little lake, and y'all were going to invade or get information from, I think, the Vikings or somebody, right? So basically you guys just RP'd on this island talking about what you were going to do. And that specifically, I remember like, oh, this is really cool because they're just playing their characters out. Like, maybe I could do this, you know? And then after that, the king's son died, and you did that whole like with the music and everything, you put everything into it, and it was like so dramatic and stuff. And I went, there's no way I could ever do anything like this. Like, I was out at that point. But I bought and downloaded Arc because you had RP'd it, and I hate Arc, and I played like 20 minutes and I was out. Okay. Like,
yeah. Why do you hate Arc?
Um, it turns out after many seasons of playing these games, I hate survival games. So
Okay.
I hate Atlas. I hate all survival
Atlas
games,
is the
really.
worst, though. It has the
Yeah,
worst hunger systems, but you
yeah.
still stick to that.
Well, yes, but we we came up with this concept of like the division of characters, and we think that there are like story promoting characters, and then there are sort of the facilitation grinding characters, and
Hmm.
then we have this third classification, and we call them leech characters, and they're the people who offer nothing except RP.
Hmm.
They don't grind, they don't build, they do nothing else except RP, and
Hmm.
the payment for that RP is survival, basically. Someone else builds the house, we live in it. Someone else makes the food, we show up for dinner, stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I play leech characters pretty much always.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
But
But fun. I'm glad. I'm glad you I
yes,
could help you get into RP. That was cool.
but we definitely have to go back to your point of stream sniping. It's
Hmm.
something I've asked a lot of people about. It's on this list of questions I have for you. Um,
Okay.
Now that you're on the other side, and I'm sure people just appear in front of you at random,
Hmm.
do you have any tips for people to at least make it worthwhile because we can't stop or anything like that?
Um, like a tip for someone who's thinking about stream sniping.
Well, I would suggest not doing it, of course. I think we all would, but you
The
know,
thing about stream sniping is it's not always bad. Like in
right,
the hands of someone competent or someone with good intentions or whatever, someone who's not just doing it to be there, a lot of cool stuff can come of it. Like I'm sure, because usually you can tell, right? You can tell when someone's stream sniping. But there have been times where I probably haven't known that someone stream sniped, but something amazing came off it. Um, Even though I might have been like planned and prepared, um, it still turned out great for me as a player, or maybe for the stream as content or whatever. So good things can come of it, but the you can not you. I think it's a good ground rule to just say don't no one do it ever,
mm-hmm.
because I think probably most people who just find out what server you're on, have the right game, and they just jump on and do it probably can ruin it a little bit, or make it weird just to show up. Um, it's such a hard question because there's definitely been time where it's good,
Mm-hmm.
and there's definitely been time where it's bad. So I would say, I don't know what the
It
fuck I would say.
it sounds like in your example at least you
Mm-hmm.
provided a scenario, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
scenario your characters must have talked about, and if your characters talked about it they must have RP'd through it, and then at the end of your discussion of how you stream sniped, it actually sounds like you just role played and went to the person with your role play instead of showing up and expecting them to give you role play, right?
Yeah, and the thing about, because Daisy makes it a bit strange or a bit different, because Daisy is most of it is just one road, across the outline of the map. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone's walking from one city to another, you know where they're gonna end up. So what we did, we just placed ourselves where we knew they were gonna be, and then prepared the scenario. So I would say, if you're gonna stream snipe, which you shouldn't, um, with good intentions, I would say make sure that it is an optional thing, right? Don't ever enter yourself in a situation. More so, be maybe in the area or whatever, and if they don't come your way or something, just don't chase it. Maybe just be somewhere if they see you and they're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" and you present whatever you're trying to do and they're into it. I think that's I think personally, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I think that's cool. Now, most servers, pretty much all, have rules against stream sniping. So
Right.
I'm still gonna say don't do it. But if you're gonna do it, make sure you do it in a way that whoever you're trying to stream snipe or whatever can choose not to, without it being strange
Right.
or weird.
Wow. I was not
That's my answer.
expecting actual stream sniping discussion. That's wild, but that's awesome too. I would like to ask about the opposite side of that. I do know that you played, I don't know what their name was, someone who owned a dragon, and you played both your character and the dragon, right? You had a voice for the
Yeah,
dragon.
Bruce and Loveless. Yeah.
Bruce, you're right. And that was done because, from what I understand, you couldn't get enough RP to fill, I guess, your stream or your time, right? So you played both. A lot of people would just quit, like, oh, there's nothing here. This server is dead to me. I quit, right?
Mhm.
Would you still do something like that now, even though I think it's impossible because people will flock to you? Or do you have any like thoughts about that time where you were basically RPing with yourself and telling a story?
Yeah, I don't fully recall
Okay.
why. Well, I recall the season itself. It was when Scorched Earth came out on Ark, the DLC that had dragons, and it was a very big map. I remember, and it was very barren. So there was a lot of space where nobody was or nobody lived, and there was nothing to go to. It was just a lot of sand, which is which meant most people just had, because Ark is a lot about having flyers or dragons, something to fly around with, because there's so much. A lot of time, if you see someone flying around, you can't really chase them down because they're just going fast somewhere. So yeah, I had joined the server. I was playing Bruce. And then I had somehow at some point gotten myself a dragon that I called Loveless. And I tried to give it like a personality, and I used my VT3 at the time. It's just a voice thingamadoodle.
And I just lowered the voice. And his name was Loveless.
It sounded like that.
Right.
And as you said, there was very few people around to role play with, so I had to just do back and forths, which I kind of enjoy. I couldn't really do it for a full like 5 or 8 hour stream,
Right.
but it was more of a necessity to me at the time, because I don't like quitting a character or a server and just abandoning and letting it fade out. Like, I want my character to die or something. With this last season with Frank, I kind of let that happen because school started and I couldn't. But if I'm like jumping on and I choose not to play the roleplay game, that always makes me feel bad if I know I have a character. It feels lazy to just not do it. So that's kind of why I kept playing, was because and it worked out great, because I wouldn't have done that if I didn't force myself to keep playing. But it wasn't completely barren. I always met some people during the streams or when I was on, but a lot of it was just me and the dragon flying around and doing gags together, or me doing them. It was weird.
Right.
And it's always a super, super difficult thing being an EU role player. If there's any EU role players in here, you know exactly that.
Yeah.
When there's so few people on comparative to the night crew or normal NA hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that happened.
Well, I think that whole sort of scenario is something that I would say a lot of people really need. I've done it. I played a character named Boxer. By the way, your characters and my characters have never met ever. So this is the first time.
I was wondering about that, because I have really bad memories. I was really worried that there was going to be some time where I'm like, I don't fucking remember meeting.
No.
But okay, good. That's out of the way.
Just in like stream, like, hey, what's going on kind of stuff, but not person, like two characters. But anyway, I played a character named Boxster. He was very sad and very like sort of out of the main focus, right? He was sort of behind the scenes, but at one point, he was trying to court some girl, and she was with the Navy, and he had to basically wait for the Navy, which you might not know, but normal people wait a lot at the Navy for anyone. Okay, so I spent 5 hours waiting at the Navy.
5?
5 hours, and people would come by every once in a while, but I really had nothing to do, so I talked to their animals, and I like made up stories for their animals that they had pinned and stuff, and other people would have been so salty. And I've talked to those people who are like, oh, I spent 3 hours trying to do a trade at the Navy and it was awful. But this way to fill time and make it interesting for yourself is super important, because people would walk through me talking to the animals and I would explain what the heck I was talking about. Like, oh, that tiger is hungry or something, like, whatever I was saying, I would give them names and stuff. And then that person's in the RP just because they walked into you talking, right? So anyone who walks into Bruce, they're in RP all of a sudden. If you hum by yourself out loud in character, boom, you've included someone that you don't even know was there. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what RP is about. Like, that's why you're on a server, right? To collaborate with other people. So that's the essence of it.
Right.
I mean, I can still see. I mean, I don't know how I would react. And if I had to wait 5 hours at the Navy port, I would probably also be a bit. I don't think I'd be upset, but I just wouldn't come back. Like, I would choose to do something else if that is what I have to do my role play. But that's such a huge discussion too, because the Navy, I don't know enough about how they function, and it needs real people to do real jobs that like take time, and that's a whole nother thing.
Right. Of course. Don't worry, the person after you worked in the Navy, so we're gonna ask them some hard-hitting questions.
Perfect. Yes. Good. I want to hear about it.
Yeah. The Navy's a wild beast all into itself. But including people is so important, and like I said, just doing things out loud, people walk into it all the time. It's incredible. You mentioned also somewhere in our discussion that you don't want to just quit, right? You don't want to just leave. Well, do you have a responsibility to the other people in your crew to continue, or you as a streamer, do you have a responsibility to keep the 21 other people who are vampires or in your detective agency or whatever, like, playing on the server?
That's a hard question, just because there's a lot of factors to it, right? Like, on one end, there's the fact that like I do stream and I do have to pay bills or whatever, but I still love what I do. It's not like I do it because I have to, but like that's always somewhere in the mind that like that's what people want to see and I gotta do it, but I still enjoy it. But again, it's still there. But the main reason I think it is, if we take King Guillome is a great example of it, because there's been many seasons, because the meme about King Guillaume is like he always dies. He dies every season. He will never stay alive till the end of a season because he's meant to die. And it's always expected, and then it comes and it's it's kind of full circle, and it feels good to have the start and the end. And the main reason for that is a lot of the time it can get overwhelming running a group that big. That's not that strict either, because I kind of wanted to have it be a fun, loose time, but still be part of the story of the server, and still have people that want to do some combat stuff and people who want to stay and just do Civ RP and like coexist, and not have too strict rules, so it's still fun for everyone. But when it comes to ending a character, part of me feels like if the king was to just die one day out of, let's say I get bored, I don't like it anymore, and I just happen to run down a cliff and whoops, he died.
Right.
Like, let's say 3 weeks in or 2 weeks in, I feel like L'Oreal might just start to crumble a bit, because like I need to say, I don't think it's because like people are only there because I'm there, because that's not it. But because King Guillaume is like the position of a lot, at least in the beginning parts, like leading everything and choosing which storylines we kind of go for, at least on a server lore level. A lot of things kind of come from the people in La Royale, and a lot of the storylines are just within. Because it feels a bit of like what's the word? Self-centered, to be like, if I'm not there, everyone's gonna stop playing.
Right.
Like that feels gross to say, so I don't want it to come across that way. But somehow a part of me feels like if I were to end the character too early, or at a moment where I know a lot of people have a lot of interesting story stuff going on, I feel like I can't really kill him, because then that just ruins it for everyone. What was the question again?
Is there an actual responsibility from the player to continue? Because just to let you know, I mean, you played 5.0 and stuff. The not only the leaders, but often, especially in 5.0, the people with specific skills, for example, the blacksmith of a group, is super, super important. Or the shipwright. That person is the only person who can make ship pieces in the group, right? If you've had 3 weeks of blacksmithing or shipwright or whatever, and then that person is like, oh, well, I'm bored, I don't want to play anymore, I have to do all this work. Or I'm the leader and I'm keeping everything together, but I'm bored and I'm leaving. I've talked to a lot of people who feel responsible for like the group crumbling and stuff, even though they just don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not a I don't think there's a responsibility per se. I think it's nice to maybe say like, hey, I'm going to quit playing in a week or so. So if you want another blacksmith, try to find one. Because I think a lot of what happens usually is people just slowly fall asleep, right? And then you just didn't really know, and now you're out one, and you have to fix it fast. I don't know if you have a responsibility, because like everyone's just there on their own free time to have fun and like do collaborative storytelling and express themselves, their art form or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I wouldn't call it a responsibility. But I do think it's nice if you give a heads up if you're starting to end your character or stop playing.
Do you think that you put more pressure on yourself and your RP over other people because you're the leader, the streamer, the whatever?
How do you mean more pressure? Like
I was basically trying to point out that there's a lot of people that I've talked to over the years who feel this incredible pressure to make sure that the pirates can all sail and be the pirates and do all this stuff, even though they're just supposed to be a captain who is a leader, and they can quit at any time. Like, you can quit at any time if your stream schedule's different, if your life is different, whatever. But it sounds like what you're saying is, oh, I feel responsible, and I don't think you should, and I don't think anyone should.
No,
you know?
No, but if I put myself in the shoes of someone in La Royale, right, and they're having a great time and they're really enjoying it, I would like for let's take your example. There's a blacksmith, and they decide to just go. If I'm someone in La Royale that like needs certain tools, for example, to do a thing, that puts a halt in whatever I'm trying to do, and that would feel like a bit frustrating. So in that sense, if I were on the other end of it, I would be appreciative if there was some sort of warning before, or if I could keep doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But of course, then again, I wouldn't want to put that pressure on someone else either. I don't know. I don't know. This is a big question.
Thing, because we feel like it's another thing that I've had, multiple conversations about is just DMing people and telling them they're great. And that their RP is great and all of that stuff. The RP appreciation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's wild that we can't say to our friends or people that we've been with, like, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore. I'm probably going to quit soon. But we definitely should, you know. But more often than not, it's easier for us to not have that conversation and just to stop playing. And
Yeah.
what you're saying is definitely true. We should reach out to our friends and say, I'm not feeling this. Maybe the whole company is feeling the same way and you guys want to start something else, right? But nobody really
Yeah.
wants to say it. So yeah, my point is just tell your friends whatever you're feeling. Be open, you know?
For sure. I don't really know what because I agree, like no one ever does that, right? No one ever really is that open. If they wish to leave, they just slowly fall asleep or they just keep playing anyway.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, if you're in smaller groups, I kind of understand that because I feel like you would feel responsible. Like if you're a group of 4 people and one starts to leave, chances are that group is just going to slowly probably stop playing, at least sometimes. You know, you could probably
Right.
find a replacement, and then I'm sure you just feel bad that you're the reason then that the RP will end.
Right.
Or you fear that it's going to end.
But that actually doesn't, I don't think, happen. There's like a rhythm that almost all companies and servers go through, in which there's the creation and building of companies, the attempt to get people involved in your company, and then there's a reorganization phase in which everybody who's lost a bunch of sleepers, they wind up going to new companies or forming new companies. So in actual reality, if someone wants to continue playing but they've lost some important piece, they just go to a new company. And if you say like, hey, I'm gonna drop in about a week, they can look at flyers ahead of time and sort of not plan their story, but you know, be ready. And when you drop, boom, new company, let's go. All right, new RP.
Yeah, no, that is true. That's definitely true. I'm trying to think if I've ever had me like or anyone leaving, because La Real it's such a buffer of people that like if one leave it doesn't do that much damage even though it sucks. But yeah, no, I don't think I've ever, because I agree if we were to do, for example, we did the detective agency for 5.5. If we say like half of the group would leave, we could have probably just like merged with another group, and then that would have been great RP to be like, hey, yeah, we need to be with you guys, and then you do something completely different with them. So yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind, I guess, even though like you can always keep it going in different ways, and like God, I'm losing words. I'm Swedish. Not expand your RP, but change it. What's the word I'm looking for?
Continue or
Continue
alter,
it, yeah, in a different pivot in a different way. Yeah, that just makes it maybe even more interesting and more fresh. Yeah.
Speaking of Frank, do you think Frank is, well, I mean, it seems clear Frank is probably an easier character, but were there a lot of differences from GTA Frank as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's I had more of my humor in this Frank that we play, because I played Frank in GTA together with Graves, a friend of mine, and he played my brother, and we were. It was very different because in GTA, right, you just drive around and look for crimes. There's a lot more crimes, I would say, happening in GTA, and then it would just be you're kind of playing child police, as like you're not really police, but you go around and you're like, what happened?
Right.
And it's the atmosphere is a lot different. It's a lot more serious in GTA than it is on Atlas, but that's just the atmosphere. That doesn't really have much to do with the characters. So the main character difference would be that in Atlas, I added more of my edgy humor at times, or my satiric humor, I should say, where I made him alpha male, and he just had really shitty views on things, and that's always risky. I'm always because I want to push it more and make a character that I make fun of certain stereotypes, and I make fun of things I find stupid. But it's really hard to do it on a live stream, and where people might not realize that you're making fun of it. But you can say some messed up stuff, and people are like, "Hey, that's not okay." And I'm like, "I know, that's why I'm making fun of it. Like, people actually think this." And I'm making my character the butt of the joke. So I made him, I would say this time, more the butt of the joke than previous.
Someone said Daniel. Daniel's dope,
Yeah.
I think.
I do love playing Daniel.
If we look at your characters, King Guillome, Frank, even GTA Frank, Daniel, Loveless, and Bruce, I would say that they are sort of these grand, generally funny, like over the top kind of characters in whichever direction they are. Wherever the top is, it goes over in whichever direction. But RP is so varied and so open to everyone that there are a lot of people who may have come from GTA and are in Atlas, for example, playing normal humans, like normal. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to stand in the line and have a discussion with my neighbor while we wait for the Navy, right? So how do you have any tips, because you've played the over the top versions? Do you have any tips for normal people who want to be
for mortals?
for normal characters, for example, more common that you would meet on the street kind of characters, to interact with those people? Because a lot of the times what we find is that those players feel like they're NPCs, and they allow the more extreme characters to just play out whatever their extremeness is, and they just are facilitators, but they're not. They're like super duper important. You got any tips for those people, or like comparisons or anything?
Gold. I just need to start off by saying I always try to make it, because as you say, like, people who play normal characters or more maybe low key, that aren't as colorful or whatever you want to call it. Like, everyone is super important when it comes to being in a roleplay server, because it is collaborative, and you want to work with everyone and every character, even if they might not match with you. You still want to have an interaction, even if it clashes, because you're so different. You still want to have that interaction, because that's what RP is all about. So I always try to make it an effort to make sure that whoever is around feels included and is included. But that's why it's so hard, because I don't know how you would enter someone who maybe isn't as aware, or is trying to do that. Someone who's just trying to do their own thing and be crazy and wild, and you're standing on the sideline, maybe wanting in.
Don't worry, I got it.
Okay, you do have. Okay, because I feel like you could just like, every interaction is an opening, right? Like, for example, Daniel in GTA once, I was trying to get a license to a press license so I could get a camera. I don't remember why. I want to take pictures or spy on people. Oh yeah, I was a detective with him too. I play a lot of detective characters because I can't play police. And I had found a megaphone, and I was just running. I was standing on a bus around town, and I was like, "What do we want? What do we want?" And then I was just demonstrating and running around, like, yelling. And then I stood in the middle of town on purpose, because then people would come around and, like, be like, "Hey, could you shut up?" Or like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because that's how you get those interactions. And then every time someone would come up and talk, because that's all it kind of takes, is just to to start an interaction, just talk to someone or whoever you want to maybe interact with. And then it's up to them, I guess, if they want to dismiss it, which I don't feel like they should, unless it's their character. So I don't know, if you're asking me to what a tip would be, I would just say, like, present yourself, and then it's up to whoever you're doing that to.
Right.
Keep the ball rolling.
I'm thinking of a specific interaction that like was probably unmemorable, but I'm pretty sure it happened in maybe season 3 of season 2 of King Guillaume on Atlas. There was a lot of like drama or whatever. I think it was season 2. Anyway, it's unimportant. Some person who I don't know, I have no idea who they were, came into like a big room, a throne room or whatever, where the king was talking to some random people, right? And was doing that classic scene where someone stumbles in and they have an important message, right? And they gotta like get the message to the king, right? So they give the message to the king, and then I would say a bad interaction would be the king then immediately takes that message, goes somewhere else, and like discusses it with his council or whatever and does all that junk. But that's not what happened. What happened was that person stayed. You basically had them say it again, asked a bunch of questions, and then other people would arrive, and that person had to give the same message again. They were like the most important person in that room because you sort of turned focus at them, and they were just a messenger, right? Like they probably.
I'm trying to remember. Like, damn it!
Just got to get.
I've had so many throne rooms. Which one was it? But yeah.
I have no idea.
I mean, yeah.
Like you said, presenting it, and then people who may feel like they're over the top point the whole scenario at that person and allow them to be involved. And that, even if they're not over the top, they're very important, you know?
Yeah, but then the question is, would you then say that, because then it sounds like, and would you then say that the responsibility lies then on those that are more expressive with it and more crazy, that are, is it up to them then to like make sure that the people are involved?
Yes. So in my opinion, and in all the conversations we've had, we talk about the trade of everything. So the whole point of the whole game is basically trade. You've got traders who are trading for money. You've got pirates who are trading their time, and a pirate interaction should be giving of time in order to get whatever the resources are you're stealing. So in the case of being a leader or being someone who's over the top, I would say you need to trade those interactions for people who are probably more normal or whatever. In my example of leech characters, I had no problem sitting and waiting for someone to arrive, because when they arrived, they've probably been grinding for 5 hours or however long it took to make the hundreds of thousands of resources they wanted. So if I spend my time setting up a plan, for example, I was playing the Mad Hatter in Conan, which is, I never thought would work, but I played the Mad Hatter, and I carried all of the tea items, like the table and the chairs and all of the teapots and all that stuff. I carried them all the time. And then when I found someone who was like big and gruff and had been out killing stuff, I would invite them to a tea party. And if they said yes, I would lay it out. I would do the whole thing. Like, we would have a tea party right there, right? And that's payment, that's trade. They're a normal-ish character, and they could never do that on their own. But I'm there, not grinding, not doing any stuff. I'm preparing just for them. I'm trading into their resources. So I do think there's a responsibility on people who play wild characters or powerful sort of characters, leaders, to make other people's RP fostered and grow. Yeah.
So you would say it's a responsibility and not just like being polite. Like it's a nice thing to do. Do you think
No,
it's like one?
I don't think polite is enough. I think that once you say, okay, I want to make a group, I don't. There you go, chat. You have it. I don't want
I just need to make sure it's not a Swedish snack. It's an apple.
to.
I don't know.
It's a Swedish apple, though, I'm sure.
No, I hope so.
I think that when you, like, for example, and I want to talk about this occurrence specifically, but the Minecraft server, that was so unique to me and so different, even though when we look at it, it's very actually similar. The rules, the way the PvP works, all that stuff is like sort of structured, right? But if you say, oh, I want to run this server and I want to do this, from what I remember, it was your idea with a couple other people and y'all made like little factions, right? The people who run those factions are there to facilitate other people having fun. You can't just be a king alone in your castle and expect everyone to just do stuff for you. That's why I think Guillaume's great, because Guillaume walks around and does stuff. You have breakfast, you have all sorts of things that just bring people in, and that's the only point. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I agree. I just don't know if I would call it a responsibility. I think it should be, maybe, because it's always good if those people that have the power to be more, what's the word? Extroverts, I guess. Maybe that's a good word to use. I don't know, but someone who's like can pull people in and do crazy stuff.
Right.
But then again, like everyone is just on to have fun, and I don't know if I just don't know if I would say responsibility, because
Okay.
I don't know if I would use that word, but we're saying the same thing, though, that like people probably should, because it's good, because they're just helping everyone have a better time, which is the point.
Yeah. I do think we are agreeing and say the same things, and most of my ideas and thoughts I have drawn from watching you and then testing things. Like, you are the person who got me into RP, so I want to have a detective agency, but it would be completely different, you know? I want to try different stuff and unique stuff. So, but I would need other, well, I don't necessarily need other people, but the theory is like get a couple people together and go do it. And sometimes they don't work, but in my own opinion, I do think that the person who floats the idea generally has a responsibility to see it through and not flake on people. But again, we are there to have fun, so it's a very difficult concept.
Yeah, that I agree on very much as well. That whoever, I feel like if you are someone who starts a group or are in a leader position, then you do have responsibilities. I think, because that's why I try to do, because I've learned from many seasons of Guillaume that there can be times, there's been like shaky times where I have felt very overwhelmed with everything that can happen, and making sure that we get enough part of the server lore, you know, having to stay up till like 5 a.m. just to make sure that I'm there for when the Navy comes and be like, hey, yeah, we're here. We'll come see you on Monday. Bye. Just to make sure things like that roll. And I've tried this season, I think it was 3 goddamn times, to make sure there was another leader. I was very specific because it was Katie I invited first. I was like, hey, Katie, I don't want to rule by myself. Do you want to be queen? And she was like, yeah, it's awesome. And then after 2 weeks, she just never woke up. And I was like, God damn it. And then I tried to get Joe to do it, Joe Fudge. And I was like, hey, just, we should marry. Well, we didn't even prep it off. So we just did it naturally in character. But as we started to like get this romantic thing, me and Joe, I I was proposing like, hey, we should. It would be good to have another king because it's hard to just do this solo and it's such a big group. And then after we married, he just fell asleep. And I've done that before, I know, where it's just been like, I kind of want to have some sort of co-ruling, because I think it's good too to have like a separate person to start, because a lot of the times I just do shit I find funny, things I just find really funny. And I think it's sometimes good to have someone who's like pushing back against that to create some normalcy. Is that the word, normalcy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
Normalcy, yeah. That's a word.
And a lot of the time the king has not had that, right? He's like, because he's built to be a person in power that's not supposed to have power. That's what makes it funny. He can say things and do things and like insult people. And the beauty of it is like everyone knows that. So if you're, because there's a lot of people that are into that, you know, they just want to be there so that they can get yelled by and hit with a shovel and called some name. And they're like, that was super fun. And I think that's really cool. But there are definitely times with many of my characters where I think it would have been good to have some pushback. And Shia does that a lot, which I'm very thankful for. When she has joined our groups, there's a pushback or suggestions like maybe you should do it this way. But on the other side of that, there's also times where there hasn't been a pushback, and then some ridiculously funny thing has happened that has then maybe been a staple of La Royale or whatever group I've done because there wasn't pushback.
Right.
But what I was trying to say is I wish there would have been more people so I could take a break for a day or two.
Yeah.
But
like I said, I do want to look at the Minecraft server because I thought it was so cool. Do you have any? Well, I guess can you explain it? Because even having watched it, I'm not super for sure on the exact details. But can you explain it? And then there's a lot of us who have ideas like that, like, oh, let's go to this game and do this. You got any like suggestions or tips for getting people involved? Because a lot of us don't have a whole stream community. You know, we've got our friends or some people we've played with from a different server. You got any tips for bringing people?
So the quick rundown on how it happened was there was a big server, a big streamer server at the time called something. Oh, it was called, what is that movie? Purge. It was called the Purge server, I think, which was like for big fancy streamers. And I was really jealous. No, I'm kidding. That wasn't it. No, but they were doing that thing where like you have a Minecraft server, everyone just gets along and you're having a good time and you're building and goofing around. And then on one day, it's full on PvP. It's full on PvP and anyone can destroy anything and all rules are gone and you just do whatever you want. And I thought that idea was really interesting and it looked really fun. And I thought like pretty much all games and all ideas could just be elevated if you add RP. Right. If you just add RP to it, it can be so much better. So I was thinking I want to do a server where you start on Monday and then Tuesday, Wednesday, it's a week thing. And then on Saturday, you just remove all the rules. And then you have role play mixed in with it. So everyone's kind of having to play a character. And I've always been a fan of like, I've always wanted to try to do weekly things or at least short things because I'm not a fan of long seasons. No flack to Darkside, okay? But I like short stuff. I would rather have like 2 weeks, now maybe not 2, but 3-4 weeks per season, and then you can do something new, or then you can, there's something fresh to start it over. So that's why I wanted to make it a week thing because I think it's the perfect amount of time to be invested. Enough that there's no one falling asleep, no one's gonna get bored and stop playing. Like it's just a week, so you have the perfect amount of time to start and then do it. So the idea of the server was to just build for a week and then naturally, it was kind of fun to naturally create alliances because everyone knew there was going to be PvP.
Right.
And it was actually really cool because there was one group playing the Hobbits was their idea. So they just made like a little Shire area and they were just farming and they didn't really prepare for the fight. They were just like goofing around, making bread, going around being like, hi, we're Hobbits. And there was another group that played, they played the villagers from Minecraft. I think those are the ones that they go around and say, and we had VoIP on the server.
Yeah.
So they just walked around and they were going, they never spoke any words. They just made those sounds. So there was villagers. And then what are the other ones in Minecraft? They're very similar. It doesn't really matter, but
I don't know their backstories. I just know they're like building areas, like
yes, pillagers. They're pillagers and villagers. Yeah. So then there was another group playing pillagers, and they were like the sworn enemies of so they were just always having back and forths. And I think it was the pillagers made like an underground rug lab, which was a joke on drugs, and they would just sit down there and make rugs and like have potions and stuff, and it was very hidden. And because me and Fuzzy Freaks, we were doing police. It's because I was an admin of the server or whatever, so my job, I was just kind of walking around like, what is going on here? So they were doing rugs or drugs to be a little bit of rebellious. It was really fun. And then there was a few groups. Joe Fudge was tryharding. Him and like 5 other people were just grinding day and night. They were the only ones like preparing for the fight, really. There were more groups. It was really fun. But then on the final day, we had a circle that closed in, and then everyone was fighting. And we had built a huge tree in like the middle of the map where people spawned. And they walked, because everyone spawned in there, and they walked out and explored the lands and built. And then the hobbits had prepared the day before the purge and just climbed on top of the tree and just chilled. So they were sitting on top of the tree just chilling out while Joe Fudge and their group were just like killing everyone. And it was really super fun.
Yeah.
But the idea came from, I just wanted to do a 1-week RP thing because I've never seen anyone really do that. And I think it fitted perfectly with Minecraft and the idea of like a purge sort of thing.
How do we get people to do that? How do we
get people to get into it?
Yeah.
Well, I had the luxury of just posting in my Discord and being like, hey, you guys want to do this? And enough people replied. And I also co-did it with Joe Fudge. He came up with some of the rules and helped me with the admin stuff. So we both kind of were able to lure them in. But if you want to do it and you might not have resources to reach out, I mean, I think if someone were to come to, like if you or pretty much anyone in chat that that I know of would come to me and be like, hey, it's me. I've been thinking about doing this thing. Can I? Because people have done that with like Rust servers and things. And like, hey, I'm doing a Rust server. Can I post it in your Discord and see if anyone's interested? I think most streamers, unless they're holes, would be okay with that. Because like, well, I don't know what the downside would be other than like making the community do stuff together. That's always good and fun and cool. So I would say that just contact the Discord admin or owner or whatever, and ask them if you can post in the Discord. I think that is a really good way of doing it because everyone has a Discord. Everyone's on Discords, and
I don't have a Discord, but I do think
you have a Discord.
Well, I have. We're on Discord obviously right now, but I don't have like one for the stream or whatever. But there's this like sense of don't post other streams, don't post other groups, don't post other servers in these places. But you're right that asking the owner is totally cool. Like again, communication. It seems so difficult, but also so easy at the same time. That's a good resource, yeah. Especially
sure,
if you're
just,
active, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other, because like you definitely do not post it in a stream and just be like, "Hey guys, I got a server." Unless it's Ven's stream, then you can do that. He loves that.
You heard it here first.
But yeah, I think that would be my number one tip. Number one tip is ask a server admin of someone that of a community you're probably part of and you want to do this with. Yeah.
So I think Flutter still has a Minecraft server actually, but I haven't been keeping up with it. But she stopped playing. Never mind. So this Minecraft server, the Ark experiences, and then all of Atlas, they're all really cool. And like I said, I can remember very specific things you did, and like events and all of that stuff. For example, I think it was amazing on this small little limited time Minecraft server that you and everyone who was streaming, but also specifically the admins, you would move to different groups and see what they were doing, right? And
that was so fun. Yeah,
seeing the hobbits up at the top of the tree just like taking drugs or whatever they were doing and trying to wait out the experience was so cool and so funny, but it doesn't exist anymore. Do you feel like loss or anything? Like, unless people highlight it, all of that stuff, all of that experience is gone, right? So
I know that is a thing that it's like not a curse, it's just a bad habit of mine. I don't know why I did that. That was so stupid, but a lot of the time, especially RP, because you do so many streams, and there's so many little interactions that might not at the time seem like a huge thing, but then as it goes on, like it was a cataclysm of something amazing, or like you look back like that was amazing, why did I not clip that? But I very rarely save highlights or VODs, and then I regretted it. It happens regularly, and then I regret it like 2 months after. I'm like, I should have highlighted it. Why didn't I? I do know that I have the map, because I saved the map, the Minecraft map, on a file that I have somewhere on my computer. So I do have that left. But yeah, I don't have the actual BR thing, which I am upset about, because I think about it often and how much I wish I could go back and look at it.
That's part of the art, though, too, right? Like, it's limited, so it makes it more important.
That is true. That is definitely true. That's the reason I like DayZ as well as a roleplay game, for example, because like when you die, you lose everything, which means every scenario is very intense. Same with like Tarkov and other PvP games, but especially in RP, I do like the immersion you get from knowing that, like, hey, this is a tense situation. If guns come out here, I could lose all my stuff. Or more importantly, my character could die. Which is another thing I've never really seen a server do, because I don't know how you would do it, but I would almost like a perma-forced server, where if you die, you have to perma. I would love to do that. The only issue is most games are not that optimized that you could easily die to some bullcrap and then...
Right. Yeah, I don't know enough about DayZ, so I die a lot, but I'm like, oh, I gotta put chlorine in water? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't even think of that junk. And then everyone else is carrying chlorine tablets, but I don't know, stuff like that. So
yeah.
Why is my character laughing? I don't understand. He's just constantly laughing.
DayZ is definitely one of those games that it's hard to get into, and I don't even know. It's kind of like, I don't know, smoking cigarettes. I get you don't know why you would ever put yourself through it, but once you have, like, you just know it in and out, and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we did do a very very short DayZ experience in which we just played two college bros at the end of like after the apocalypse, waiting for our rich dads to come pick us up and like referencing our butlers and stuff. So everyone's like all grizzled, you know, and all that stuff and talking about guns, and we're like on the top of buildings creating rave areas and junk. Like,
Oh, that's fun.
we didn't fit very well with the DayZ peeps.
Mm. It's there's a lot of fun stuff you can do in DayZ though. Because the not the atmosphere, not the scene, the environment, I guess, that it provides you with to set a scene for your roleplay is very unique. Like no other game really has, you know, like a post-apocalyptic dead world with zombies. Like it's pretty cool. The only issue is it's really big.
Yeah.
And you have to walk a lot. And there's a lot of mechanics that are not very user friendly unless you know them. But I have a yeah.
I think they worked on helicopters. I think helicopters work better now.
Yeah, but finding helicopters is, you know, that's a whole nother thing. Like finding the parts and then fixing it. Same with the cars. It's not very easy to just jump in and do the things you want to do. You have to commit. You really have to like farm and not even like in Ark where you just hit a tree a few times. Like you have to go to a town, look for needles for like an hour, and then you find 5 and you can make 3 planks, and then you have to go to bed and do the, you know. But once you have a group together, everyone does it. It's really fun, and you can make an actual little town. And you have to make your crop plot farms. You know, it's very immersive in that way. And my favorite thing about DayZ, I think, as a roleplay game, is the walking, because a lot of the time, like it's, you know, someone has to protect the base or something, so you have to stay. You have to go find guns somewhere up north. Me and this person are gonna go look for food or something, and then you have like 2 hours of you just role playing and talking. Like that's all you're doing. You're just like playing your characters and you're talking about backstories that I always make up because I don't really write characters that way.
Yeah.
And then you bond and stuff, and then you go do the thing and you have some interaction. Maybe you find another person and you get really sketched out because what if they have weapons? And then you have another hour walk back home, and then you've had that bonding experience that builds so much, especially towards like whenever, because it always happens on DayZ because there's guns everywhere, so there will be combat and people will try to raid you and there's enemies. But there's just no other game like it that has that drama to it, you know. Because when characters die in DayZ, like it's really rough and sad, and you know it hits. Because there's also no real space for humor characters in DayZ and silliness. Like they exist, but
I had noticed,
they stop playing really fast. They stop playing real fast because they can't really keep up with the grind that's so different from other games.
I'm just gonna put my finger on this question and try and remember, which won't happen because I move my hands a lot. But you mentioned the walking and the RP and stuff. There's a lot of times that we find ourselves sitting on a ship moving from one island to 4 grids away, and that's the same concept, but after like 3 days, it feels, you know, oppressive.
Sucks.
And I know what, you know, some people do is play games or work on backstories or whatever, but like even after a while, that gets like, you can only talk so much, right?
Yeah.
So do you got any, you know, like fun ways to do that, or do you have good ways to go AFK? Because we all need that. We all got to go pee or like feed the dogs or whatever. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go into my head, but
yeah, they'll go into my head. Yeah.
You got stuff for that?
Well, I mean, that's my kryptonite too. I hate the boat ride. I hate it more than I hate the vitamins, I will say.
Okay.
And I hate the vitamins. But I mean, that's always been a struggle. Always been a struggle that I like barely can cope with when it comes to Atlas. Like I try to come up with like Pictionary. That was a pretty fun way to do it, where we replaced the word movies for place. which worked really well because everyone knows movies. And then he would just draw and people would guess. But I mean, the reason it's so boring to me, and I think a lot of other people, is there's just no variety. It's just water. It's water and wind, and sometimes there's some ghost ships. And that, like, there's just, compared to DayZ, for example, I won't drag on long, but in DayZ, you can, like, walk, and then it turns to night, and then you have to set up a campfire and collect wood, and you get hungry, so you have to go hunt a chicken, and then you have to get sticks, and, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into just walking, and there's houses along the way that you loot, and there's just variety in it. It's never really boring. In RP, to me at least, because there's like always things to do and look for and goals to set. Whereas on a ship, you're just like, we want to get here. I want to get here as fast as possible, and then the wind is always against you.
Right. Of course.
So I don't know if I really have any tips as to like make it more fun. I mean, tips to go AFK, I don't think is that hard, because you can just say like, I'm gonna go stitch my shirt or something. It broke. I'm gonna go downstairs, stitch my shirt, or something that fits your character. For Frank, you might be like, I'm gonna go polish my magnifying glass. Just whatever, because people don't really question it as long as you have a believable. It's never weird unless you say something strange like, I'm gonna go lay down. Well, that's not even weird either. But like you said, like, I'm gonna go down B in my head.
Yeah.
If you say something like that, then it's like, okay, you're taking me out of the game. Like, I know what you mean. Now I'm thinking about the fact that we're playing a game. You just ruined my day. No, but anything that fits your character, you could just say, I'm going to do that.
Well,
it doesn't have to be a big thing.
Unfortunately, a lot of us learn not from watching streams, or if we do watch streams, it might be someone we know, like not to say that smaller streamers are worse at RP, but just like they may be less experienced. So a lot of the routines that we learn are from other people in the game, and there aren't these, not that this is, like somewhere you should go for that, but there aren't a lot of videos out that are like, okay, you're RPing, here's stuff you should do. Don't say the same things every time. Don't reference outside, don't reference normal life, stuff like that. They just don't exist. So it's difficult for, don't reference the gods. Yeah. Okay. That happened to one of us. Yeah. But there aren't resources available for working on RP like there are for working on improv or working on whatever.
Well, I mean, do you mean, because I'm assuming we're talking then about people that know kind of what they want and are noticing other people doing the opposite?
Well, sort of.
Then I would just, go on.
It kind of ties into the question I have my finger on. You might have heard of NoPixel, and it has exploded over the course of its existence. And once very, very large streamers started touching NoPixel to the point of tens of thousands of people all watching a streamer who may or may not be that good at their craft, right? Lots of people were like, I want to try this. And so they're brand new, and you can't go to YouTube and search how to get into RP. There aren't any videos.
Someone should do that. That's an untouched market.
Yeah, I have scripts written for them actually, but I've never made them. But yeah, so and like a minute video just saying like how to go AFK would be so good, because you can just show, your character saying like, oh, I left my shoe downstairs, I just realized, or like my socks are mismatched, I'm gonna go change, or like any of that stuff. If your characters are serious, like, oh, I can't believe this shirt's on inside out, and that's stuff that people would really say in real life. Never say use your muscle, whatever muscle it is. Never say I'm going inside my head. But how do we grow these people because when you call them on it, it's really awkward, right? If you have a new player in front of you, it feels weird to say, "Oh, what are you referencing? I don't understand."
Well, that's the thing. I feel I don't feel that same way. I feel like you
Okay.
can make it fun because I try to do that. You know, when someone's like, "I'm gonna be inside my head," I'll be like, "What do you mean?" Like in RP, and I think
Yeah.
that makes people realize that, like, okay, yeah, what does that mean? And sure, it maybe makes them feel bad or so I don't know, but I feel like it. I guess it's up how people interpret it, but, like, when I say it, it's never really in, like, a making fun of them way. It's
Right.
more like a, um, making fun with them way, I guess, but
Yeah.
that's, up to interpretation to the other person, I guess. But I do think, because I was gonna say that, I think a tip would be to just when you hear people say things like that, just, like, question it in a funny way and be like,
Hmm.
when they're like, "Flex your" because when people say, like, "Flex your blah blah muscle," they're just trying to help, you know, and
Right.
explain something mechanically, which is always hard to do, actually. But yeah, I guess you could if someone's like flex your H muscle, and I'm like, you could just question like, I didn't know I had that many muscles, or like I didn't know what's my B muscle then, or like what does
Yeah.
my Q muscle do? Um, because I do think the way to change the idea of being able to say those things as an easy out is to just not ridicule them. I don't
Hmm.
know what the word would be, but, like, express that, like, that's a weird way to say it.
Hmm.
Um, and as a new player, I mean, I would like, if you don't know really how to say them, maybe just ponder, like, how would I say them? Maybe write some of them down and have them, handy and be like, "Here are some excuses for why I have to go AFK that fits my character," or, like, "This is how" if someone needs to bring up their map.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not the best example because usually I will just say, "Just bring up your map," or like, use your left hand instead of like left click.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but because I have room for improvement there as well. But I think if it's something that worries you and you know that you don't really have that many good go tos, if it were to come up, just write some down or think about it for a bit. Because the
Yeah.
main reason I think it happens is that people haven't thought it through and they're like, how do I explain the K key on my keyboard to someone?
Hmm.
Um, and there are ways around it, but it's probably hard to think of in the
Yeah.
moment unless you have
It's
it prepared.
very difficult. I actually learned how to play Atlas, never having played Atlas, all through
Yeah.
RP. Every single thing, every talent, everything I learned through RP, and it's super rewarding because like I had a character teach my character how to use a gun like through actual RP and
Yeah.
shoot and how the trigger works and all that stuff, and
Mhm.
I'll never forget that, even though there's no clip of it. Like
And
I'll
yeah,
never forget.
an important thing there too, if you are teaching, is just be patient. I've noticed that. Like
Mhm.
if you just let people fucking try some keys around, they'll figure it out. Instead of feeling like you have to say it now.
Yeah.
Because that's happened a lot where I'm like, here, cook this or something, as the king maybe, like, do this thing for me.
Yeah.
And it might take them like 2 or 3 minutes to figure it out, but they will, and it makes for a funny scene where you're like, "You're supposed to be the chef. Why don't you know how to cook it?" And they're like, "Ugh." Um, and as I said, like some people who join lottery especially enjoy kind of being ridiculed by the king, so it kind of works both ways there. But yeah, just give people time to figure it out. You don't always need to say left hand or left click or whatever you want to
Right.
say. People can just try it and then they figure it out.
Yeah. Um, Not that it's your responsibility, but prepping ahead of time, not necessarily learning all the keys or whatever, but just prepping like how am I going to ask questions that reference the keys or stuff like that can definitely help.
Hmm.
Um, we brought in a person who had never played Atlas. So we were like, yeah, we're going to be pirates. Come join us. Don't worry, it won't be
Hmm.
that intense or whatever. We played on GGRP and she was like, all right, cool. So we get her on the ship and um, there was something about vitamins or building or something that was like so difficult to explain. And I just like stood there and I was like, all right, so first what you want to do is you want to like shift your weight forward, and then you need a certain amount of control. And we needed so many keys to explain it. I was like, oh, my brain is going to explode. And she never actually got it. I couldn't explain it. It was so difficult, but it was fun to try. And we did have a funny, interaction, like you said. And then later on, she was like, oh, hey, I figured it out. So you're right.
Yeah, and that's another thing I think you can do, not while you're role playing, but you can always DM and ask.
Oh, yeah,
Like
true.
I try to make it a point that if I bring someone new on, I'll try to like figure out the basic things they need to know to just get by, and be like, hey, this is the button for the map, this is this and this, just so you know. And that's always really appreciative, because some things are hard to figure out when you come to Atlas or Arc and never have played a survival game.
Mhm.
Like a lot of things you don't even think about. So you can ask, as long as you're not in role play and just like DM them right then and there.
Speaking of communicating to people outside the game, you
You're
have
so
a
good
Discord.
at segues. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like I have a long list of notes and questions that I thought about for multiple hours for each one. Anyway, so you have a Discord, right? And the server has a Discord, and there's Discords everywhere. But you have spoken in Darkside's Discord, but you don't often speak in Darkside's Discord. Do you do that for a specific reason, or is it more like you just put most of your effort into your own or anything?
I don't know if it's an intentional effort per se, but like I noticed early days of, I think it was Arc on Twitch RP, or maybe it was like later in DayZ, but it was some point where I was doing a lot of RP, and it was Arc. Oh yeah, it was when I was getting partnered and I was playing a lot of Arc.
Yeah,
I noticed how I got really sick of it. I got really sick of the game I was playing and role playing in general, because I was investing so much time into it, so much of myself, and every free time I had, I was just playing. And if I wasn't streaming, I was off doing like farming, and like from morning till night, I was just playing and role playing and doing everything. And then I started getting sick of it, really sick. And I had to just like distance myself. Um, and I think ever since then, it just kind of carried over where I I do role play when I stream. Unless, early days of like prepping, I will try to be on and contribute.
Mm-hmm.
But once everything is settled, like I try to just play while I'm streaming and be on, and then back off, do other things, just so I can like enjoy it and have an excitement for it, because it is needed for me to enjoy it, to be excited to do it, and be like, oh, I want to jump on and see what's going to happen, and like follow this storyline that I'm doing, and blah 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 blah. And in order for me to do it, I have to distance myself. That would be the reason.
I would say I'm the same way. My sad character, I thought about all the time, and I was like, how do I make him sadder? How do I make it feel sadder when he's around? And so I would listen to sad songs, and I would think about how he would explain stuff over and over and over and over, to the point where I was sad like a lot. And I was like, dang, this is not something I should do anymore. But do you think that your perception of it is because it's kind of your job, and you say, hey, I'm here for fun, and yeah, sure, you're RPing for fun, but other people are just logging on whenever they can and whenever they want to, and then they're in the Discord and they're saying like, oh yeah, here's how you do stuff, and like it's all the time, you can touch it all the time.
I don't know, like because of course, like I said before, it is there. Like it is my job, and therefore
Mhm.
I will always be in the back of my head that like I have to kind of enjoy it to keep that part going.
Right.
So I can't be unbiased when I say that I'm pretty sure that's not why I do it and why I
Yeah.
enjoy it. But maybe it is. Maybe it is back in my head, and it's like you gotta do it. But what was I gonna say? Um, what was the question again?
Um. Oh shoot! Now I have to remember the question.
Where's your finger?
You can. Well, I'm waving my hands. You can.
Mm.
You can. Players on a server can log in whenever they want and be in the character, but
Mm.
also we have Discord, and for a long time it was required that companies also, if they had a Discord, they had a
Mm-hmm.
person in it. So it's clear that companies make their own Discords, right? And then
Yeah.
each server has its own Discord and all of that stuff. So like people will spend large amounts of time invested in, for example, Darkside, and
Mm-hmm.
be on the Darkside server, talk about Darkside to other people. It's like the only hobby, right? They just
Yeah.
do this nonstop, and I'm not saying that's bad. I think that's dope because a lot of times those people help other people who have questions and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
also, we've both given examples where we shouldn't do that. And how do we find the balance, of being in a community and not swallowed by what we're doing?
Yeah. How to find that balance? I mean, that is so everyone's different, right? Like I have, I got school now, and I have my girlfriend Lauren that I just spend time with and do things with. So everyone might not have that accessibility to free time and things to do. So it's probably easier to just fill your time with this thing that you love and everyone around you loves as well as a community. Um, so I don't know how you would find, because I think we can safely say that diving in that much is not healthy and will
Mhm.
not be good to be that absorbed by it and make that like your life and focus at all times. Because I think anyone who has like I did backed off a bit and then returned with fresh eyes, have a much bigger appreciation for it and a lot more creative ideas as to what to do once you come back. Um, so I think it's safe to say that taking a break, doing like anything else in the real world, so to say, or just like anything else that you enjoy, is healthy and good for you. Um, Now, how to find that? I, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, Especially if that is your hobby, and like if you just love role playing and that's all you do and that's what you spend your time doing on your free time. I don't know. Do you have anything in mind?
Yeah, of course. I think about all the questions and then answer them myself,
Okay.
and I also imagine what your answers will be. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think that it's clear that you're playing role play and you love role play,
Yeah.
and I think that we are so like close to our characters. Not
Mm.
necessarily you, but I would assume that your characters have pieces of you in them,
Yeah.
and I think that my characters all have pieces of me in them,
Mm.
but we get really like they're so important to us that we don't want to perma them, right? Like
Mm.
unlike you, you're like, okay, I want this to have an end. A lot of people will play the same character over and over again and have this
Yeah.
long story, and there's we get really caught up in that character, but if you just say, okay, I'm going to soft perma and I'm going to play another character for a week, you can still be in the same existence, right, of your
Mm-hmm.
your server and everything, but play a different character just to release like the focus, because you're so caught up in it that you can't step back. And I think that when people do that, I've seen and talked to people who do that, you get this like whole different view on the server and the people who are on the server and everything. So if you think like, oh, I'm being pirated all the time and oh, this is awful and oh, it sucks, play a character that never leaves the free port, remove that aspect of piracy, and just talk to anybody who comes up. Be like, oh yeah, I live right over there, I'm in the free port. And like, it is different just playing a different character. And that's the same thing for Discord. If you're constantly on Discord and everything, playing, or not even playing, but just looking at a similar Discord, for example, a Conan Discord, because we're all in all these Discords, right? We love RP. Just look at another one that may be starting a season or ending a season, and talk to your friends there. Their experiences sort of pull you back in a way. It removes whatever the lock is, I think, and allows you to see a broader perspective and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Yeah.
Thanks. You did mention how important your time is and stuff. I did tell you that it would take roughly an hour and a half. We are an hour and 55 minutes exactly. So if you got to go, that's cool. But I do have more
we can
questions.
do another 20. Yeah, no,
Yo, 20 more minutes. Let's do it.
Yo.
All right. So I have, in this iteration of...
Also, wait, mention how important my time is? You make me sound like a...
No.
My time is valuable.
Well, we briefly touched on, the other aspects of your life that people don't normally see when they watch a streamer, like you can say, oh, I have class, or oh, I have other people in my life, but we're just watching the role play, so we don't really think about it, so unless you're a hardcore PonyPunch fan, which I'm sure there are at least a couple here, you might not know.
Rise up.
Shovels up.
Shovels.
Yeah, like in this iteration of the questions, I have tried to focus more on the story stuff, and you have given, plenty of story information. In the past, I've focused just on like tips for RP and all that stuff. But do you have a moment across your entire career of RP that you're like really proud of, like that makes you like, oh yeah, that was so good. I can't believe we did that and it pulled it off and stuff.
I do. Which one is? No, I remember having a scenario like that. Was insane. Which one was it?
Oh, wait, you're muted. What happened? Oh, my bad. I touched my headphones. Yeah. My bad. Okay, I can hear you again. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm trying to think here. I definitely know there has been insane times. I mean, it has to be. There's been many, of course, throughout time. La Royale, I've always been very, very proud of. Not proud of myself necessarily, but proud of like just how a group of people can come together and like make really, really good stories together with other characters. Because a lot of the time, La Royale just starts off as me, and then I might have like I try to fill it a little bit. I think last season we almost filled it immediately, but I always want to leave room for random people to come in, like fresh people. So I like get it half filled, and then it's like anyone who wants to come can join, and then you fill it up. And there's been times, and I'm trying to think of like specifics. Oh. Of a time where
Thank you for the raid.
Hey, The hot mic incident of L'Oreal. Well, that is not my proudest moment, but that is one of the funnier ones. I just cussed out Joe Fudge in front of everyone.
Yeah.
A time where I know I have them. I just need to figure out which one it is. No. I'm gonna remind myself. I'm gonna go back and look at my old clips, and then there's gonna be
Okay.
something like, "Oh yeah, that one."
Yeah.
Um. mm, 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 mm.
While you scan through your clips, I have another question.
Oh yeah, do that.
Okay.
It will pop up, and I'll be like, "That one." Yeah.
So, I can see your eyes moving back and forth, scanning all the. Okay, so the the moments of yours that I think are the most impressive, personally, have a lot more than just you talking or someone else talking. The thing I referenced earlier where the king's son or whoever it was, I think it was the son, died. There was, like I said, music involved and all of that stuff. Do you plan, and we all recommend not to do it, but do you plan any RP events, or do you just have like a large tool set available that you can jump into and use at any time with your setup?
I plan in the sense that like if I know the king's gonna die, right? Every season I
Mhm.
know he's gonna die. So a lot of my time off stream is planning like making it used to be like videos. I would like go around and record stuff and then I would find a song that fits and then I would do like subtitles and things. The first Bastion La Real was super ambitious where I went back through all of my clips from the season and I edited them together of all the characters of La Royale and I had a sad song while I like showed everyone who has died and with all of that. But when it comes to like characters dying, um, uh, if I can sense that it's about to happen in a few streams, or like, okay, yeah, well, this like he's being hunted right now. There's a big probability that he's gonna get caught and killed. I'll probably have a song or something um, prepared that I can play. Um, or in certain time or certain seasons, I've had like the king perform songs with when I used to play guitar and sing. So in that sense, I do have scenarios, yeah, planned out, and if it comes to that, I'll be prepared to play um, or enhance it with music or something I have prepared.
Right.
But I don't think I've ever like planned out RP. No.
Okay.
Not like a full like storyline or like an attack or anything like that, no. Because that kind of ruins the essence of RP, I'd say.
That's calling
Okay.
out your brilliant moments.
Uh oh, Hangman Daisy. Oh yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. And the wedding. Oh shit, you remember? See, Z was playing with me as Bruce Bright and Ark in early days. As for your last question, it might be a bit of a cop-out answer, but I do really think that school,
Oh yeah.
which isn't like one moment, but school was a thing we created where I thought I would kind of do it as the king and just be like, here's where I teach you stupid stuff that isn't true and it'll be really funny.
Yeah.
But then we realized a lot of people came and then we would give it a forum to people to be like, what does your character do? Can he like teach something to everyone here in a fun way? And I think the way that worked out and how other people managed to pull it off, there were times where it didn't work and where it I don't know if you've heard about the legendary animal. What was it even? It was like I hope the person who didn't isn't in chat because they probably feel really bad for it. But There was someone who was gonna do um, animal improv or something. I don't remember what it was, but they were like, "We're gonna do a fun thing," because the king usually I didn't usually know what they were gonna do.
Right.
They were just like giving free roam, do whatever you want, and they were like, "We're gonna divide you into teams. You guys are the cats, you guys are the dogs, you're the horses, and you're the this and this."
Oh,
And then they
the one
would,
where they, can I guess? The
yeah, you can
painting
guess.
one? The one
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you
they
painted?
painted
Yeah.
us. They painted us as like the we were supposed to paint ourselves as the animal. And then it just turned into complete chaos because he would ask people to like, the horses make the animal or the horse noises, and the cats make the cat noises. And then they would like go up and I don't even remember. It was so chaotic, and everyone was just screaming in their mics. And I think there was some breeding happening too, where it's like, this is the cats and the horses are breeding on the ground here. And yeah, that was one of the top moments where it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But there were so many times where it did, and it was really, really cool to see to give people a platform to like show off the character they've made and like teaching other people things that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. You know,
Yeah.
like here's a writer, he's gonna teach you how to properly write a poem in a certain way, and then people could interact and join in. So I would say my wowest moment, or whatever the question was, would
Yeah.
just be the idea of school and how it has evolved and what it turned into.
Yeah. Even after I stopped sort of watching your stream, all the time religiously while you RP'd, I would be, somewhere and be like, oh, it's Sunday. I gotta go. I gotta go watch
Mm.
school. Like, I saw them all. It was great. I agree that instance of RP and everyone coming together and doing it. And like even people from outside of La Royale would come too. So
Yeah, it was a
it,
great way
it was
to
wonderful.
get
Yeah.
connections and everything. It was just all around good. The only bad thing was, as a sole person kind of in charge, was to figure out who's going to do what on one
Hmm.
day. Where again, I wish I had one more person that could be a queen or the king to do stuff. But it worked out. Worked out great.
I have a completely unrelated no segue here.
Aw.
You have a stream and are a streamer. Wild.
Mhm.
Um, what do
Crazy.
you what do you think about? Okay, this is let me because I wrote it down, but the way I wrote it I think is wrong. What do you
Mhm.
think about funding the arts you support, not just donating to streamers, but also Patreons for Discord, for servers, and um, even even paying for art in general? What do you think about that, and how does that tie into your stream, which is art? It's entertainment, um,
Yeah.
and you live off of it, right? Or at least
Yeah.
partially.
Um, I just don't.
You also don't have to answer. It's cool. Money
No,
is
no,
a
no.
tense
It's not.
subject. Yeah.
No, no, not for no, no. You're fine. I just don't think there. I'm trying to think. I don't think there can be a very hot take on this.
Mhm.
Because like you should. It's good to support art, and um, I think it's a good thing. That would be my answer, right? Like people like I'm super appreciative of people who do choose to spend their money um on me or whatever I do to show that they enjoy it, or if they want the emotes, whatever the reason is. uh it's crazy and it's really cool and I'm really appreciative of it. um and uh, if it comes to like, as you said, Patreons or things, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. No, I mean, it's if
Mhm.
people are like asking for it and people can do it and they want to do it, I don't really think there's a yeah. I just don't see myself saying, no, I don't know, man. People shouldn't
Yeah.
be sponsoring that. They can do it themselves.
There's a lot of
Uh,
RP servers who have channels and they say like, hey, just a heads up, we need money to cover the server costs, for example, of like hosting on the server. And a lot of times, if that isn't funded by the community, the owner pays that out of their pocket, right? So it's like one person paying whatever amount of money it is so that 25 or 100 or however many people can play on this server, right? And I just wanted to call out that, like, sort of not just you, but any of those places, they do need us to, like, okay, you spent 1,000 hours in Atlas. Did you bought the game originally, but did you support the server? Did you support the streamers that brought people to it? Like, not that you have to, there's no responsibility here, but you know, it's there.
And I mean, the thing you said about the server is like, that kind of just works itself out. That's not the way to say it, but like, if there's enough people playing on it and they enjoy it, it will get funded, and then it stays up. And if there's not enough people that do enjoy it, then it I guess it will if they pay out of their pocket, but they can't do
Right.
that forever, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's nothing wrong with having one of those where they're like, hey, we got to pay for this. Do you guys want to do it? If they enjoy it, they will. And if they don't, they won't, I guess.
Right.
So I think that kind of just works itself out in that way.
Also, it is September, so definitely check out PonyPunch.tt or .tv. Subs are 30% off, so go check them out and support your streamer and stuff.
I don't even know how September works this year.
Yo, let me explain it. But also, I'm gonna say F you to Twitch real quick. Also, September is 30% off or something like that. So you just go to sub and it's cheaper. You get the full month, but whatever. And then they also have this way that you can, sub for longer or whatever and get a discount as well. But I learned yesterday that if you sub on mobile, it costs $1 more.
Yeah, don't do it on mobile ever.
That's messed up.
You can blame Apple for that, I think.
Yeah. Oh man.
September. Were you streaming for the first September, which was insane?
I probably existed. I've streamed for 6 years, so I think I existed, but I'm not relevant. So there you go.
It was 50% off. It was, I believe. It was insane. I've never had that many subs. It was crazy. And then I think they realized, Twitch, that like they lost so much money.
Yeah.
And ever since, they've just tried to make people forget it. And by doing that, they just made it worse every year. It's just like this. I mean, I appreciate you mentioning it and all that, but I don't even think at this point it's like worth mentioning September or celebrating it in the same way, because I don't even think it's 30% off you subbing, even if you're new. I think it has to do with gifted or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, really? I would have to check that as well. I don't know.
Because they make it. Oh yeah, it's 20% off 1 month subs, 25 of 3 months, and 30% off 6 month subs. And I do believe you have to be a brand new sub to do it.
Oh, what a scam. The Flutter said the streamers who got more than the 50 split were donating subs to themselves in order to make more cash. Genius.
Well, yeah.
Oh man. In our last few moments, because you stream a lot of RP, there must also be times when you don't stream RP but still play because you like to RP. You got any like behind the scenes things that might have happened that no one ever saw that you can call out and be like,
yeah, I sure do. Me and I think I can say this. If not, nobody tell. Nobody tell.
I got banned like 2 streams ago. Please don't do that. No, carry on.
Me and an unknown streamer that has their own server got together a while back, where they had an idea of doing an in-character interview or like a TV show, kind of like Conan O'Brien, I guess, something where it's like they sit behind a bench and then someone comes out like, hello, and like, our next guest, blah, blah, blah. and we actually recorded like an entire episode of that where it was kind of like an interview, kind of like a talk show with
Mm-hmm.
the king. I was playing the king,
Mm-hmm.
and because this unknown streamer that
Yeah.
nobody's ever heard of that has their own server, um, didn't edit it or get anyone to edit it. I don't know if he'll ever see the day of light, but it was
Yeah.
really funny, and we built a whole
Wow.
set for it. We had lights and stuff, and it had a background, and it was really funny. And that person just never ever
Wow.
released it.
So
I know.
I have a tie-in to that, surprisingly.
Mhm.
When I first thought of this idea, I thought, oh, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna interview people, right? And
Mhm.
I I wanted to specifically put like these are season end interviews about the season itself. Yeah, sure, we can talk about other
Mhm.
servers, but I want to talk about this and what we saw and everything, and like, you know, get into RP and junk. So I
Mhm.
asked if it was okay to use the tag and the name and like all of that stuff, because I don't own any of this stuff, even though
Mhm.
I was a character, right? And I was told that there may be an in-character interview being developed, and I said, "Oh, okay. Well, if that's going to be released, that's much better than this. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to take away from that, right?" And
Uh-huh.
so I thought, okay, I won't do this or I will delay, and then I got word through people that it, in fact, wasn't going to be released at that time. So then I
Mhm.
started interviewing people, and I have done 3 years of interviews or whatever it is after that. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
It is crazy because yeah, there is they still have the footage
Yeah.
somewhere. I know it, and they just haven't edited or told anyone to edit it. So I don't
Yeah.
know when it's gonna fucking appear. Um, Another funny thing I guess I should mention, I did show it on stream, I think, but it was pretty funny, was La Royale this season, or 5.0. Um, Actually, I managed to, and I felt a bit weird about it, which is why I never really told anyone, but I asked if we could have a quite large sum of money in La Royale that I hid. So we actually had a pretty huge sum of money, of gold, that it was hidden under the king's bed, or the floor under, that nobody ever knew about. That was hid. We were really rich. We had, I want to say, 500 gold, just like a
Nice.
vast amount that we just sat on, for role play stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, we never really told. The king was the only one who knew. No one else knew.
Sure.
300. That was the one.
That's dope. I do think that streaming is super important. Oh yeah, they're calling you out now. Um,
Uh,
and the reason I stream is, you know, to show off other people. I don't think I'm necessarily the best or whatever, and I don't think anyone who does it actually thinks that. But um, do you have any tips for, with our last remaining moments,
mm,
small time streamers, but not the the YouTube video tips, because I can just list all the tips of things I should be doing that I don't. But
yeah.
you know, like tips for streamers, basically, because to us, you're one of the top.
hmm Um, Tips. I mean, I've gone this question a few times in stream.
Mm-hmm.
People come in like, "How do I grow?" And I've thought about it. Um, I think that the most important, because if we're talking about like to grow, I'm assuming that is the goal. If you're streaming, I guess, is to like find a way to whatever you're trying to express or show your art form. You want kind of more people to see that, to share it, or if you just want to make more money, whatever your reason is. I'm guessing like the growth is a part of it, and that on Twitch is never really assured. Um, there are ways, you can increase the probabilities of it, which a lot of you, as you said, YouTube tips are,
Yeah.
but those are very bland.
They are.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the most important thing, and that is probably also maybe a bland answer, but like it is so important that whatever you're doing, you're enjoying it no matter how many people are in there. Um, you have to enjoy it, and be excited for it, because otherwise you're not going to be able to keep going when stuff is rough, or when you're not getting uh, the growth you want, to like push on through that, because otherwise, a lot of people you will just stop, because like,
Right.
I'm not enjoying this anymore, because you're focusing on that growth part, um, and that doesn't work. um, I mean, for some it does, but like it's such a
Right.
small amount of people when there's so many people streaming. So the most important would be to enjoy it, um, and do it for the sake of doing it. Um, I mean, that's what I did with DC a lot of the time, was just like I try to have like the mood music to like put me in the mood and try to set a setting, which made me enjoy it a lot and feel like I'm showing this episode of a TV show, and I'm enjoying just doing that part, and like putting the little black bars on the, making it look
Yeah.
more cinematic, like making it a TV show. I enjoy that whole thing of that. Um, so that would be my first thing, at least, is like just
Yeah.
enjoy it, find a way to keep it going and keep yourself motivated.
I think
Um,
I think if we look at streams that have seen huge growth over time, you could do the YouTube stuff, which, just to let anyone who's watching know, you stream at the same times every day. You stream the same
yeah.
thing every time. You either you are the best at what it is, or you are the most fun having at whatever it is, and then after that you either grow slowly over time, or you hit a large raid and you never look back. Those are the only ways. But I think that if we look at the biggest streamers who have seen a lot of growth, for example, I'll call out Kitboga, Summit. These are people that I watch occasionally. They were having fun to no one. They were streaming being the best at shoot. I just blanked on the name of whatever that fighting or shooting game is that Summit used to, Counter-Strike, or for example, Kitboga just having fun with his friends, and then it blows up, right? Those are that. I think that's the most important thing too, which is the only one I do. So there you go.
Yeah. And another thing, if I should mention, is because when I started with DayZ, there wasn't that many people streaming it. That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think Atlas is really good in that way, that when Darkside
True.
is not on, nobody's watching
Yep.
Atlas, or nobody's really streaming Atlas. So like that is a good way too, is to just be on Darkside and be on Atlas, because there is a lot of people wanting to watch that. So um, that is another way. But it always has to be at the core fun for you, or exciting. Um, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you very, very, very much for your time. Like I said a bunch of
you.
times, I am a fan, so that's dope that I got you on and stuff. You're actually the only, like, I would say, large stream person that we've interviewed, because I think you already have a platform. You should tell your audience things already, and you definitely do, and you tell your stories and you give tips and you do all that stuff. So normally I just interview people who don't have a stream, and we talk about their tips and stuff. Kept breaking character. Well, my bad, I guess. I guess I do have a character.
Can we start some drama? Who did you invite, like Ven and Fist? Did they say no?
No. I've never invited any of those people, just because, again, like they have their platform already, and if you wanted to change the RP world, and you wanted to say, like, oh, here are some tips every day, I give you a new tip, whatever, and you grow people's RP and stuff, you could, and you don't need me and all that. So yeah. It's just let's see, drama.
Well, I was just hoping you would say like, yeah, they said no, or like they didn't reply, and then I would call them out for it.
No, I've never been invited to their streams, for the record, but that doesn't mean anything. I've actually never met any of those characters in character either. Not you, not Vin, the Admiral, not Fist.
You play on NA times, I'm guessing?
Yes, but I have played Boxster Fitzgerald, who worked for Sailor and was also very sad. And then Pierre Manure, who is a scam artist, so we didn't really like say our true names and stuff over time. And yeah, I played Pierre again this season as well for 5.0. Just never went to La Royale. Oh, actually, Boxster did go to La Royale after being hung at Black Wake. But nobody was in town at the time. I think I spoke to one person at that point. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is always also a hard part, getting like NA and EU hours. I've tried that a few times, but it's always like one of them gets lesser people and then it dies out and you still have like usually the EU time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But no drama I can think of. I generally stay away from whatever it is. So guess I can't grow through that.
I was going to say, that's a great way to grow. Get some drama going.
Nah, I'm not super into growth or whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't self-promote. I don't have Twitter. I don't have my own Discord. So, yeah.
Well, I like what you do. I'll say.
Thanks.
And thank you so very much for having me on. It was a great time.
I think so too. I appreciate it. There is another one for everyone else. So, I guess I'm just going to play some music and go pee and then prep for the next one. Is my guess.
Where we hear about the Navy and how they messed everything up.
Derrickster is our point of contact for the Navy, so good luck. Thank you for the follows, by the way, and the raid and everything. And again, thank you very much for your time, Pony.
Of course.
I appreciate it. Bye, everyone, for now, I guess. I don't have like a in between streams kind of. I'll just play the intro again. You can enjoy the intro for a while. So I'll be right back. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.